Welcome to another episode of Redistricting for Racial Justice, presented by More Equitable Democracy. My name is Bill Ball. This is the fourth episode of our Intro to GIS and Census data course. And in this episode, we're going to talk about downloading data from the census, and then we're going to clean it in Excel. So let's get started. I'm going to X out of here, and the first thing I want to do is take a look at our map. So in the last episode, we downloaded these shape files. We downloaded a congressional district shape file and one for block groups. Now, unfortunately, the block group shapefile that we downloaded does not already have the race data embedded in it. So it's upon us to download that from the census website, and then we need to join that data to the shapefile, and then we can make the map that we want to make. We'll talk about joining data in a later episode, but first things first is we need to download the data. So let's get the interweb here going. We want to go to data.census.gov. Okay. And you'll get to this page right here. So every data set from the census you can download from this website right here, or at least most of them. And so what we want is race data at the block group level. Okay. Now, don't follow me here just yet. Just watch me for a minute here. I'm playing a trick on you. Let's go ahead. We want race data, right? So let's search for race. Okay. And then I see a table here for race. American Community Survey. That's what I want. Year 2019. Okay. It looks hunky-dory. Let's click on it. And I get here. Okay. I see a total estimate, 328 million. White, black, Native, Asian, Pacific Islander, other than 2 or more. It seems to me that it's missing a huge segment of the population of the United States, which is the Hispanic and or Latino population. Why is it not listed on here? And the reason is Hispanic and or Latino is not a race according to the census. We are not SOL. We just need to go to a different data set that segments the Hispanic or Latino population by race. Okay, so we don't want this race data set. We want a different one. So let's go ahead and go back to the main page and just follow along with me here. Now you can. We want to search for 2019 Hispanic or Latino by race. Okay, we'll click search. This top one here, American Community Survey 2019, that's perfect. Okay, and okay, we still got the same 328 million estimate right here. So it's the same date, it's the same number, but you can see here they break down the two main categories are not Hispanic or Latino, and then Hispanic or Latino. Okay, so that's what we want. Okay, now the default when you do this is going to give you the counts for the United States, and it's going to give you this. Go to this drop down here, the 1 year estimates. Okay, we want block group data, and we're not going to talk about this in this series. You're just going to have to trust me on this, but the race data that we want at the block group level is not available at the 1 year data set. It's only available at the 5 year data set. So we're going to go to this drop down, and we want to click 5 year estimates. Okay, so we're halfway there. We still have the United States here, but what we want are block groups in the state of Ohio. So what we're going to go is click on Customize Table. We click on Geos for geographies. Scroll down and find block groups. And scroll down and find Ohio. And then all block groups within Ohio. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. And we click close. It's a big file. It's too big to show on your screen, but we can go ahead and download it. Those defaults are fine. Click download. Open up our download thing. Okay, and it's going to give you 3 files. You only care about this top one, or the one that's labeled data with overlays. These other 2 are junk. Well, it's not junk, but to me it is. Okay, so we got our Excel file open here, and my God, this is a lot of data here, and it doesn't seem to be making much sense here. And you're not alone. So you can see here, we've got this long number here. We've got block group 1, census tract. Okay, it's a mouthful. We've got total population, margin of error for the total, not Hispanics, and so forth. There's a lot of junk on here that we don't need, okay? First things first, what I like to do is get rid of this top row. I don't need it. Let's get out of here. We haven't talked about the Geo Id, and we're not going to talk about it now. All right, let's talk about it. So we got this really long number right here, okay? And this is an important number. This is the number that we are going to use to join to our shapefiles. So it's critical that we get this right here. And you're just going to have to trust me on this. The number that we care about is after this US. So it's this, oops, go up here. It is this number right here, the 39. If you remember from the last episode, the FIPS code for Ohio is 39. So that's the number we want. But we've got about 9,000 rows here. And so how do we do that? Now, if you know text to columns, then you can ignore the next 30 seconds. If you don't know text to columns, I'm going to show you a quick intro, and you should learn it. It's a very important tool in Excel. But what we're going to do is highlight column A. We're going to go to Data. And we go to Text to Columns. Now, we have two options here, one for delimited, one for fixed width. Both are very important. You should know both of these. But we want fixed width. We click Next. Now, what we need to do here is just draw a line. What this is going to do is take our column and separate it into one or two or more columns. And with this fixed width, what we're telling is we want to draw a line straight down and split it among that line. So if I click it right, I can draw that line right between the S and the 3-9. So I did it right. If you screwed up, you can move this line a little back and forth here. But get it right between that US and the 3-9. And then click Finish. Okay. So it looks like it did something. I see that it split it after this US, which is good. So we can go ahead and get rid of that. That's junk at this point. But we've got this other 9. I see the 3-9, but it looks like it's an exponential notation or something. And that's not what we want. If you click on here, you'll notice that it's preserving the real number that we want. That's good. But right here, it's in this exponential notation. And if we were to save this to a text file, which is what we're going to do eventually, it's not going to be smart enough to remember this whole number. And so another thing we've got to do is highlight column A. We want to right-click on it, click Format Cells, and we go to Number. We want decimal place as 0, and be sure not to select the comma thing here. And then click OK. There we go. Now we have our Geo Id. Everything's looking great. So let's go ahead and give that a Geo Id header. And we can delete these extra rows that we created right here. So let's do some more cleaning up here. So our map is just people of color at the block group level. Okay. I've got my Geo Id, which I'm going to use to join it. So that's good. I don't need this. This is junk. The only two data, I mean, we've got thousands of not thousands, but we've got dozens of columns here going all the way to column AQ. And you can go through this file at your heart's content and pick out what data is relevant to you. The only data that's relevant for making our map are two columns. It is the total population, and it's the not Hispanic or Latino white alone population. So it's these two columns right here is what I care about. So I'm going to delete everything besides those two columns. And I hate to ignore margin of error. It's important. But we're doing it. Okay. So now, all of that junk, when we got this Excel file open, is now condensed down to 3 columns. The Geo Id, which is critical. We have the estimate for the total population. And we have an estimate for the not Hispanic white alone population. Okay, and let's go ahead and give these 2 different names here. So we got a total, and we'll call that white. And then let's create a third column. We're going to call it POC for people of color. And again, you can use whatever definition you want. You can use whatever data points you want. For my map, I'm using percent people of color. And my definition that I use for people of color is the total population minus the non-Hispanic, white, single race population. So we're going to go to our cell right here. We're going to click equals. And we can go hover over this B2 right here. So we're going to equal B2 minus the white population and hit enter. And that's going to give us our people of color population here. So we have a total of 976 people in this block group, 957 of which are not Hispanic single race whites. And then the difference of those two is 19 people of color. And then what we can do, we want to replicate that for all 9,000 rows we got here. And then what we can do is if you move your mouse to where it hovers over the bottom right corner of this, it'll turn into that black cross. And once you see that black cross, go ahead and double click, and that'll go ahead and do it all the way down here. Okay? And then, as always, you should always get out of here. We want to make sure we are saving. We want to make sure we're saving the actual number, not the formula. So just to be safe, we're going to go ahead and copy this column. We're going to highlight the column. We're going to click copy. Then we're going to right-click again and click this 1, 2, 3. We want to paste the value. So what we're doing is get rid of that formula and putting in the actual raw number. If that doesn't make sense, you're just going to have to trust me and do that. Okay, so we've got the data we need in Excel all cleaned up. Okay, we've got the Geo Id. We've got the total, the white, and then the POC population right there. And then the last thing we want to do is go ahead and save this somewhere. So we're going to save as, I'm going to go ahead and save it in my shape file. I probably shouldn't do that, but that's what I'm going to do. So I've got this shape file folder on my desktop. And I'm just going to save, I'm going nuts here. Shape files. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. And we're going to call this BG for block group, and we'll call it race. We'll click save, and we're good there. So that concludes this episode. It was a longer episode, and we only didn't sound like we did a lot. All we did was download one data set, and we cleaned it up. But it's a very, very important. It's a very, very important step. So. Thank you for joining us. In the next episode, we are going to do a very, very brief intro into GIS, and we're going to start mapping finally. So any comments, please leave them below in the chat box, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for joining.